Okay, it's very easily done for nipping. I just simply put the flat side next to this and trim off any of the parts that don't belong. In this particular kit, actually I don't need these two tabs, but just simply scoring at the top of the door a couple of times. These are styrene, so they break off pretty much just like a styrene part would, and we'll break off those tops and those bottoms of that doorway to get the doorway down to the right size. There we go. Now this, we're going to need to flatten on the bottom, and I usually just touch the top. It's not necessary, but a little touch up on the top helps out also for the doorway. On our actual parts, of course, we have a draft angle on the bottom, and we have draft angles on the side, but we also have detail on the side, so no sanding. Just take the front and we'll sand off at the bottom to get that part down so that building can set, because it would weigh many tons. It should set flat on your layout. So we'll sand that just enough to get those down to where they're pretty flat. Then on the sides, we do the same thing. Sand the bottom, and I don't have detail on the front of the casting, so I can sand that. I'm not going to sand the back of the casting because it has detail. Almost every DPM building is put together the same way, including this N-scale kit. I have these sides going against the front, so my detail wraps around. The back of the side wraps around, so my back piece has no detail on either side. Both sides of my back are going to need to be filed or sanded down to get them square and flush. Real quick look at molds now. If I have a molding machine, I have sloped sides. It has ejector pins that come up through that push the part out, and therefore my part comes out with draft angle. And that's why we need to come back in and take that draft angle and sand it square so that my front or my back can fit exactly tight up against that instead of having some weird angle that it's going to appear to have. So we do need to sand the parts to get rid of that. Now, we talked about the back. I have ejector pins here that are sticking up, proud of the part. That's going to keep my glazing from going back in against the back of the part. So I'm going to check all my parts for anything that's standing proud, lay my part down flat on the sanding block, and actually sand the bottom of that part until I get those nibs down to where this back is actually flat. So give me a minute, I'll sand some edges that don't have detail, and I'll sand some backs, and we'll be right back. I have tried to make sure in every case that I've kept these walls absolutely square as I've gone along and worked on them. The other thing I've done is taken the two side walls, put them together, and put them down on the table and made sure that they stay the same length. One thing that'll throw me out of square is if one wall were happen to be longer or shorter than the other, that would throw me out of square. So I want to make sure that those walls stay the same length. On the front now, and all the rest of the walls, I'm going to go through here and look and see if we have any flash on the inside of the windows. The DPM kits are usually pretty clean. That one's absolutely gorgeous. I have a little fuzz here from the sanding that I did, not from the kit, and so I can trim some of that out. Sometimes the window mullions have a little bit on them. We can make those look a little smaller just by simply trimming them and cleaning them up. You can look at the back usually and tell if it's going to be a little bit of flash. These are all looking great. Those all look good. So my next step now, this step you want to discipline yourself to do, and it's hard to do once you get in here in the excitement of starting to build and everything starting to come together. Lay the front down at least and trace out the window pattern and door pattern of your kit. This is where your graphics and the detail from your dry transfers or your decals that you're going to put in the building are going to go. So you want to know what size this is and where the window locations are, so that now I can come back with my drain transfers, lay my acetate, my window sheet down on here, and put my dry transfers and whatever in the windows. Then I cut out that acetate and it simply glues in here and it automatically locates. So it's an important step to go through early on now before I get this thing glued together and I can't get paper back here against this back portion. And of course I did sand all the backs to make sure that acrylic or that clear window can actually lay onto the front of the building.